Welcome to Intuitive Real Talk, the podcast where I'm going to cut through all the BS. I'm going to light a fire under your spiritual ass, and I'm going to remind you your intuition isn't weird. It is your superpower. Hi, I'm Stephanie, a psychic medium, intuitive coach, animal communicator, paranormal expert. Yep, all the things intuitive. I'm also a professional truth dropper. So, what are we going to do here? We're going to dive into it all. Shadow work, spirit talk, intuitive gifts, and yep, even aliens, like a spiritual dumpster dive, but with purpose. There's going to be no gatekeeping, no fluff, no performative love and light bullshit, just raw, unfiltered conversations for people who know they came here to shake shit up. Let's get into it. Hi there. Today we are going to talk about timeline walking. So this would be different than a timeline shift where you are shifting into your timeline. This would be where you're walking into other people's timelines. And this would be not only when you're channeling or giving readings, but this is mostly happening when you're dreaming. I'm not saying you cannot have this happen when you're awake, but it's typically when you are sleeping. And so what do I mean by timeline walking? Well, a lot of times I will dream about people that I know or clients that are coming to me or clients that I know, and I will walk into their past lives, their past timelines, but I will interact as if either I'm a family member or a friend, but I'll still be thinking with this mindset from this timeline, but I will be experiencing so that I can see what they did from the perspective of either a child or the perspective of me. But what I'm doing is I'm literally watching what might have been the cause of their death, what might have been the cause of their block or their trauma. And so this would be common for us intuitives to timeline walk into someone else's timeline in the respect of past, present, future is all running at the same time. So typically, if I'm going to help someone with a past trauma or a block, I will walk into their timeline and I will see where it might have originated or where it might have become the biggest issue. Now, that doesn't mean it's just trauma. It could also be gifts. I can also see if they had any children, if they were married, whatever was going on. But usually when I'm given this glimpse, it's because something within them needed me to see that. So it's not like I'm just randomly picking people. It's usually someone has sent out an intuitive, energetic message, or there was a contract beforehand that, hey, you're going to see that this time. So you can tell them about it so that they can kind of know what's going on. Now, very, very common to do the past life type of timeline walking. Now, can you do present? Of course, we have multiple presents going at the same time. So one of my presents, I'm the same timeline, but I might be more abundant with health, love, money, gifts, or I might be not as abundant. So all of them are kind of running at the same time, right? So that's why they always say to collapse timelines once you have elevated so that you do not bounce back into those lower timelines. But when we're talking about timeline walking, again, this is when I am doing readings on people or I'm channeling for them. I would be timeline walking if I give you information of this is what you're in right now. You're in this energy. If you continue the way you are, this is the way it would be. If you make this decision, you may, I don't usually say your timeline will jump down here. It'll just say this could be what you're going to experience over here, which might be less than what you're wanting to do. Or if you pivot, you may go over here. And again, they would be shifting their timeline. But I can see or feel that when I'm giving a reading. Now, future timeline walking is a lot more rare. And it typically happens when someone passes away. So I would walk into someone's future timeline and experience it as I was their child or friend or whatever, but I would experience it to see them as they transition from this life into the other timeline. Now, that other timeline is typically going to be the dual of this one. So if they had a lot of mental demons, struggled with money, relationships, finances, whatever, they may choose to go into a timeline now that is the opposite, where they're very abundant. Everything is flowing. They're having different experiences. So it went from I received this trauma in this current timeline that I experienced with them. But then when they transitioned, they chose to go into another timeline where it would be the opposite. And I would walk into that to experience to see what they are now going through. Not every soul chooses to timeline jump immediately or to go in as a child or an adult. That's why certain people might not remember some of their stories as a child, is because it was kind of similar to what they already had, but they jumped in as an adult. And there's multiple reasons why someone might not remember their childhood memories, but that could be one of them. So, for example, my brother-in-law passed away this year, early in the year. And I was there when he passed. I was the death doula. I made sure when he crossed over, I helped him, did all those things. So his birthday is coming up. My husband and I were talking about him. That night, when I went to sleep, all of a sudden, I realized I was in a new timeline, but it was with him as an adult. And he was literally experiencing everything the opposite of what he had experienced in this lifetime. And so in this lifetime, he kind of struggled with a lot of areas in his life. That timeline, I was either a friend or a child. To be honest, I couldn't tell, but he was treating me like someone he really cared about. And I saw him being very abundant, but the same personality, like very chill, very just kind of go with the flow, being helpful. But in that new timeline, money was very easy to him. He didn't have a lot of crutches. And by that, I mean like addictions, things like that. Like I watched him as if I was alive in this timeline watching him. And so I was very excited when I woke up, because then I got to tell my husband, hey, he did his healing so quick. He transitioned and he immediately wanted to have another experience. Now, because past, present, future is all running at the same time, and even though his new timeline is not similar to the one I'm in currently, I was able to walk into it, but I can still talk to him in spirit too, because our consciousness can be in all these areas at the same time, right? But he is choosing to be much more cognizant of the new timeline. And I was brought into this timeline to see by his spirit what he's now experiencing, so that this timeline, I could give messages to other people. It is rare to do a future timeline. So when spirit shows you that they are living in something that looks completely different, but extremely real, as if you would explain it right now, you have now just observed their new timeline, and you timeline walked into theirs. It had nothing to do with you. It was just to show you what they're now experiencing. It is a massive gift to do this. It is very rare to do the future, much more common to do past, very common to do present. So, gosh, I hope that made sense. Please share this with anyone or leave any questions or comments. I would love to interact with you all. Have a lovely rest of your day.